A car accident turned me into the ex-husband of a big shot in a CEO novel. Remembering the tragic fate of the original husband, I quickly signed my name on the divorce papers. The female CEO's face immediately darkened. Julian, are you sure about this? My heart skipped a beat, and I hurriedly clutched my wallet. You must be kidding there. No way I'm giving back a single penny of that Skyge breakup fee. Chapter 1. After lying in a hospital bed for 3 days, I finally accepted the reality of my transmogrification. I, Julian, an ordinary college student, had transmigrated into the role of the villainous ex-husband in a kitsch CEO novel. I was the ex-husband of the CEO, riding high on my family's wealth and power, doing whatever I pleased. At the university's opening ceremony, I fell in love with the heroine, Clara, at first sight. From then on, I pursued her relentlessly, using every trick in the book to force her into marrying me. Clara, the quintessential heroine of a campus novel, as beautiful, talented, and came from a poor family. Her father was deaf and mute, and her mother had kidney failure in the end. To raise money for her mother's medical bills, she chose to compromise and married me. In 5 years of marriage, Clara went from being an unknown office worker to a rising star in the business world, and as for our relationship, it just got worse and worse. Clara gradually broke free from my control, but I was completely oblivious, acting more and more recklessly, until I pushed her unforgettable first love down the stairs. Breaking his leg, that was the last straw. Clara couldn't take it anymore and filed for divorce. It was around the time I got into the car accident. Clara didn't come to see me until the 3rd day and immediately tossed the divorce papers at me. Julian, haven't you had enough? Her voice was ice cold, her eyes full of impatience and disgust. But even so, when I saw her face, my heart still skipped a beat. No wonder the original Julian was so obsessed. This face was genuinely stunning. Then I glanced at the divorce papers and saw how much I stood to gain. My heart almost stopped. Holy crap. I'm rich. The original Julian's family was wealthy, but he was a spoiled brat, and he had a younger brother who was better at everything. Inheriting the family business was never in the cards for him. Meanwhile, Clara had skyrocketed in just a few short years, and her assets were now substantial. Once we divorced, the breakup fee would be astronomical. All my life I'd done good deeds, so becoming filthy rich like this was just what I deserved. After calculating how much I'd get, I suppressed my excitement, keeping my head down in silence for a long time, afraid that if I smiled, Clara would notice something was off. Then I took a deep breath. All right, I agreed to the divorce. Clara was stunned. She probably didn't expect me to agree so readily, but opportunities like this don't come twice. Before she could react, I swiftly signed my name on the divorce papers. Clara seemed to sense something was wrong and furrowed her brows. You? I turned my head and with a lifeless tone said, I've thought it through. Clara, let's let each other go. That was a long silence behind me. I was about to curl back under the covers and count my money again when I noticed Clara still hadn't moved. Quietly staring at the divorce papers, puzzled, I asked, Aren't you leaving? Clara looked up. I gently hinted, By the way, hasn't that guy Leo not fully recovered yet? Shouldn't you go visit him more? Clara's face suddenly turned cold. Chapter 2. He felt a bit uneasy. Could it be that she regretted giving me so much money? But I'd already signed my name, and there was no way she could back out now. Besides, considering how magnanimous I'm being right now, it's only fair that she gives me the money. Clara had an unforgettable first love back in college. Leo, unlike the arrogant and domineering rich kid I was, Leo had a gentle, mature, and hardworking personality. He came from a single-parent family with a difficult financial situation. But he was a high achiever in every way. In some sense, he and Clara were two of a kind. He was the only one who truly understood her, her real soulmate. If it weren't for me, the two of them would have naturally ended up together, building a happy life in the city after graduating. And I ruined it all. The original Julian was insanely jealous of Leo and gave him a hard time whenever he could, constantly picking fights, and eventually, even resorting to physical violence in a fit of madness. From then on, Clara completely despised Julian and severed ties with him. It doesn't take a genius to figure out how terrible the fate of a villain like me would be after crossing both the male and female leads. So, the smart move, right? Grab the money and run. Clara eventually stormed out, slamming the door. I patted my chest and muttered, still has quite the temper. But then I thought about the money I'd be getting, and my mood lifted again. This kind of windfall isn't something that happens to everyone. Just as I was basking in my good fortune, my phone buzzed with a message from Hannah. Heard Clara finally bothered to visit you today? The tone was unmistakably mocking. Hannah was Julian's childhood friend, a spoiled, rich girl who lived for partying and having fun. She couldn't stand Clara, and Clara didn't think much of her either. The two were always at odds, especially after I married Clara, and the two families interacted more. Hannah's father often praised Clara in front of her, which only made Hannah hate her, or she called me a sick fool, always telling me to forget Clara and come pick vegetables at her family's farm this time. It was clear she was just here to laugh at my misery, but did I care? Of course not. I was too busy getting rich to waste time worrying about anything else. "Yeah," I replied, snapping a photo of the divorce papers and sending it to her. "Starting today, our boys' single dinner. S on you, Hannah." She immediately called, her first words being, "Are you out of your mind?" Ah, such a rude way to talk. "You got any celebration planned?" Hannah was quiet for a moment, then laughed. "All right then, what's the plan? Mr. Blake, what kind of celebration are you looking for?" "Well, I heard you recently opened a new bar." A week later, I walked out of the hospital in an expensive suit, looking sharp and ready to go. Hannah folded her arms and snickered. "Dressed up like this just to leave the hospital? You've lost it, haven't you?" I clicked my tongue. "What do you know? Today's a big day." Hannah couldn't be bothered to argue and turned to walk out, only to bump into Clara. Clara's eyes lingered on her for a moment, her gaze icy. "You're here." I walked up to Clara with a grin. "Where's the car?" Clara's expressions softened slightly. "In the parking lot, let us go." Hannah, annoyed, shot me a glance and squinted. "Julian, you're not riding with me?" I waved her off. "I've got to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau with Clara to finalize the divorce, so it's easier to take her car." As I spoke, I urged Clara, who had frozen in place. "What are you standing there for? Let's go." Chapter 3. Kenna burst out laughing. "Of course, can't delay something this important." Clara's lips curled into a sneer. "Julian, you're in such a hurry to cut ties with me. Weren't you the one who wanted this divorce? Why the sarcastic tone all of a sudden?" I answered honestly, "I've got other plans tonight. I'm just trying to get this settled quickly so I don't waste your time." Clara was always busy. She hardly ever came home. I knew it was because she didn't want to see me, and honestly, I had no interest in staying tangled up with her either. Going our separate ways and living our own lives sounded like a perfect plan. Clara's face was cold as she turned around. The Civil Affairs Bureau wasn't crowded, so Clara and I were called up pretty quickly. Just as we were about to go in, Clara's phone rang out of the corner of my eye. I saw it was Leo. Clara stepped aside to take the call, and I could faintly hear her soft, gentle voice. "Yeah, I'm still out handling something." She never spoke to Julie, unlike that this marriage had been forced from the very beginning. 5 years of constant conflict, and they could barely manage to sit down for a meal together, let alone speak to each other with such tenderness. The staff member called out again. "Are you two coming in or not?" I shook my head, feeling a bit sorry for the original Julian in Clara's heart. He never had any place at all. "Clara," I called out to her, "can we take care of my business first?" Clara always prioritized Leo, no matter how much Julian had argued or fought. It never made any difference to her. The original Julian was foolish, thinking he could ever win against Leo. It was just asking for heartbreak. Clara, too, if she took care of this now, she'd finally be free to be with her unforgettable first love. Clara seemed momentarily stunned, then said into the phone, "Let Dr. Smith check on you first. I'll be there soon." 20 minutes later, I held the freshly printed divorce certificate in my hand, tears of joy welling up. It's mine. The massive breakup fee is mine. From today on, I'm going to travel, drink, and enjoy life to the fullest. I turned to Clara, brimming with sincerity. Clara, thank you and goodbye. Thank you for the money, and goodbye forever. As I walked out, I immediately spotted Hannah. She was leaning against an obnoxiously bright red Ferrari. Impossible to miss. I strode over happily. Your boy's rich. Time to spend some money. Behind me. Clara's voice suddenly called out, sounding hesitant. Julian? I turned around quickly. Anything else? Clara's lips pressed into a tight line. Her emotions hard to read. If this were the original Julian, he'd be digging into her feelings, trying to figure out what was wrong, but I couldn't be bothered to keep up the act anymore. No, then I'm leaving. I quickened my pace. As a disposable villain like me, staying far away from the main leads was the key to happiness. As we drove off in Hannah's car, I glanced in the rear-view mirror. Clara stood there, surrounded by people coming and going, looking oddly lonely. Well, now that I'm out of her life, she can finally be free, right? Anna gave me a sideways glance. You feeling regret? What? I grinned eagerly. You saved a few of those lovely ladies at your bar for me, right? Chapter 4. Mana was utterly speechless. I've been worried about you for nothing. I actually thought you were deeply in love with her, but you're practically glowing with happiness now that you're divorced. Wait, is it that obvious? I flipped down the sun visor mirror and took a good look at myself. Julian was now 28 years old, so I'd aged 10 years in a flash. But luckily, his face was still handsome. Most importantly, I've got money. I thought about it and offered an explanation. She doesn't love me, so I'm done loving her too. During a red light, Hannah turned to look at me, staring for so long that it made my skin crawl. Finally, she spoke, her tone hard to decipher. That car accident really changed you. My heart skipped a beat. After a moment of silence, I shrugged. Maybe after a near-death experience, people just start seeing things differently. Hannah blinked in surprise, then smiled. Fair enough, all right. Tonight's bill is on me. And 2 hours later, Hannah regretted her words. Her face was dark. Haven't you had enough? She wasn't talking about the drinks, but the girls in the club. I raised my glass to her. Come on, have a drink with me, Hannah. I patted her on the shoulder and pointed at the circle of pretty girls around us. Look at them. Sweet, beautiful, and every one of them better than my ex-wife. Honestly, with so many gorgeous women out there, and with money and looks to spare, why on earth did the original Julian hang himself on one tree? People get stuck in their heads too easily. Hannah sneered, finally seeing the light. A slim girl came over to pour me a drink, smiling sweetly. Try this, brother. Sure. I was about to take it when Hannah snatched it away. No mixing drinks, you just got out of the hospital, and I'm not calling an ambulance for you later. She glanced at the girl, who immediately turned pale and bowed her head in apology. I'm sorry, brother. I didn't know. I waved it off generously. It's fine. I'm in a good mood today. And I shot a teasing look at Hannah. Honestly, you're something else. Double standards much? You're always letting your boyfriends feed you drinks, but when it's my turn, I'm out of luck. Hannah let out a sharp laugh. How is that the same? Why wouldn't it be? I'm a freshly minted rich guy. I can do whatever I want. And Hannah suddenly asked, by the way, does your family know about all this? I froze. Crap. I'd forgotten about that before I could say anything. Hannah gave me a knowing look. I knew it, you Ray, too scared to tell them. It's not that I don't want to, it's that I don't dare. The original Julian didn't have the best relationship with his family. His parents were stubborn and old-fashioned, clearly favoring his younger brother, while Julian was rebellious back. When he married Clara, it caused a huge falling out between him and his family later. When Clara started to succeed, their attitude did a 180. They repeatedly blamed Julian for causing conflicts with Clara, so the original villain's life hadn't exactly been great either. But whenever the divorce papers are in my hand, what do I have to be afraid of? The days that followed were even better than I had imagined. I asked the butler to pack up all of Clara's belongings and send them off. This villa had originally been a wedding gift from Julian's parents, but Clara had never liked staying here. Maybe every corner of the place reminded her of the humiliation Julian had put her through at first. She mostly stayed at the office, and when her career took off, she bought an apartment near work the original Julian had visited once, only to awkwardly run into Leo there awkward, to say the least. Even though Leo immediately explained that he was only there because it had started raining, and he needed to take shelter, there was no way Julian's temper could handle that. Without getting angry they had a huge fight, followed by a month-long Cold War. In the end, Julian couldn't take it anymore and gave in, softening up. After all, Clara was his whole world, poor guy. But now, I had this enormous, luxurious 3-story villa all to myself. Clara hadn't left much behind. But after cleaning up, the place still felt a little empty, so I headed out for some shopping therapy. I began commanding in my favorite store, this one, that one, and not this one, wrap up the rest. Yes, Mr. Blake. The store manager's face practically split with joy. She was thrilled, and so was I. With a few staff railing behind to tarry my purchases, I was just about to head out when I ran into Clara. She froze when she saw me. I had already noticed Leo standing behind her. Chapter 5. Looks like his leg was healing nicely. He was even out shopping now. Clara's lips moved slightly, and she actually spoke first. It's his mother's birthday soon, so I'm helping him pick out a gift. I blinked. Oh, why are you telling me this? I don't care. Out of courtesy, I nodded politely, but before I could walk away, Leo spoke up. He looked somewhat apologetic. Mr. Blake, I'm sorry my leg's still not great, so I had Clara help me get here. It looks like you've bought a lot. Need some help carrying it? Clara could give you a hand. I'll be fine on my own. Ah, what a masterful speaker, he subtly reminded everyone, but I was the one who had pushed him, implied I shouldn't be jealous, and generously offered Clara to help me. I smiled and said, no need, my car is just downstairs. Besides, it wouldn't be right to trouble Miss Clara with personal matters. Leo blinked. What? I turned to Clara, surprised. Miss Clara, you didn't tell Mr. Leo we're already divorced? Silence. Leo stared at Clara. Shocked. Clara's delicate face tightened, her expression unpleasant. I don't like broadcasting my private affairs. Was that a veiled jab at me? Just because I threw a few divorce parties? Why so petty? Leo, clearly not expecting such a bombshell, opened and closed his mouth a few times. Clara, you and Mr. Blake, why didn't you tell me? Hearing his voice seemed to remind Clara that he was still there. Her red lips moved, and after a brief pause, she explained quietly, I've been busy lately. She used to say that line all the time to brush Julian off. Now the tables had turned, and Leo was on the receiving end, but the male lead is different from the villain. For Leo, this line was actually great news. His gaze flickered between Clara and me, and he awkwardly offered, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I didn't mean to bring it up, Mr. Blake. I hope you don't mind. Of course, I didn't mind. She's just a woman I no longer have anything to do with. Well, you to carry on. My personal shopper is handling my stuff. These bags are heavy. I'll be on my way. Just as I took a step, Clara suddenly called out, Wait. I turned around. Miss Clara, is there something else? Clara's brow furrowed slightly, as if she wasn't used to my new attitude toward her. My mom said you haven't visited in a while. Clara's voice lowered, as though she was reluctant to bring it up but had no choice. If you have time, you should go see her. She was talking about her mother. The one suffering from kidney failure, and like Clara, a mother had always liked Julian. Clara had never told her mother that she was forced to marry Julian. In the old woman's eyes, Julian, a wealthy young master who didn't mind the Clara family's poor background and was devoted to Clara, was the ideal son-in-law. Back when they had first gotten married, Julian had worked hard to gain her mother's favor, visiting regularly and taking care of her, in order to win points with Clara. He knew this was his last bargaining chip. Clara was filial, and even if she wanted to, she wouldn't easily break up with him because of her mother. But when Julian attacked Leo, he crossed a line, and Clara cut him off, leaving him with no cards left to play. I thought about it and agreed. All right, I'll visit tomorrow. After all, the old lady hadn't done anything wrong. Clara visibly relaxed and said, I'll come pick you up in the morning. I smiled and waved my car keys. No need. I've got my own car in 2 good leagues. I'll drive myself. No need to trouble Ms. Clara. Clara and Leo's expressions both froze. Chapter 6. The next morning, I set off for the nursing home. It was a high-end facility in the suburbs, with excellent services and amenities of course. It was also incredibly expensive. Mr. Blake, you're here. The caregiver, Sandra, greeted me politely. She had been hired by Clara, and knowing about the strained relationship between me and Clara, she treated me with a certain coldness. Mrs. Clara was lying in bed. Years of dialysis had left her frail and thin, but she had improved a lot since staying at this nursing home. Sandra's eyes lingered on the food container in my hand. For a moment before she curled her lips, a hint of disdain on her face. Even a caregiver looked down on me for my attempts to be considerate, because she knew that no matter what I did, it would only earn Clara's disdain. Julian. Mrs. Clara smiled warmly when she saw me. You've been busy lately, haven't you? It's been a while since you visited. I sighed inwardly. Julian had only ever used her, but she genuinely cared about him. The old lady hadn't done anything wrong. Yes, I've been a bit busy. I brought you some chicken soup. Please try it later. But Mrs. Clara grasped my hand, looking at me carefully for a moment before asking cautiously, has Clara upset you again? I shook my head. But she didn't believe me. She sighed. Clara's always been stubborn, and she keeps things bottled up inside. If she made you unhappy, just tell me, and I'll talk to her. I felt even guilty. I had intended to tell her about the divorce, but now the words were stuck in my throat. I couldn't bring myself to say it. I stayed to have lunch with Mrs. Clara, chatting with her for a while afterward as I was about to leave. I hesitated for a long time before finally speaking up. I'll be busy for a while, so I might not be able to visit often. I figured I'd gradually reduce the frequency of my visits, then find the right time to break the news. It would be easier that way. There was no way to keep the divorce a secret forever. Even if I wanted to, Clara definitely wouldn't agree to that if I kept showing up. She'd probably think I was still trying to win her back. Claire, I patted my hand and sighed softly. Julian, you're a good kid. What happened before? It wasn't Clara's fault. She never said anything to me. But I know she feels guilty and she regrets. He loved you so much. Losing the baby, it devastated her. My heart skipped a beat. The baby, right? That was the incident that completely destroyed Julian and Clara's relationship. Chapter 7. Yes, Julian and Clara had a child before Julian had used underhanded tactics to get her pregnant while she was drunk at a business dinner. In Julian's eyes, the baby was his most powerful weapon to keep Clara by his side. When Clara found out she was pregnant, he felt guilty toward her unforgettable first love, Leo. But she couldn't abandon her own child either. In the end, she chose the baby. She had already had a difficult childhood, and she couldn't bear for her child to be born into a broken home. That was the time when her relationship with Julian was at its best. She obediently took the prenatal vitamins Julian bought for her and pored over all sorts of parenting guides. She really wanted to be a good mother. So when she had the miscarriage, it completely shattered their relationship. It's a strange story, really. And after Clara got pregnant, Julian noticed how much softer her attitude toward him had become. He pushed his luck, insisting that she stay with him all the time. Whenever Clara tried to avoid him, he would use the excuse of doing activities for the baby's development or bonding as parents, forcing Clara to compromise. But after this happened enough times, Clara started to get frustrated. One time Clara was about to go on a business trip, and Leo was among the people going with her. Julian absolutely refused to let her go, insisting that she stay home and rest. For the baby's sake, Clara felt that he was being paranoid and controlling, and they had a huge argument. Can you just act normal for once? Not everyone is as twisted as you. She slammed the door and stormed out. Later that night, Julian got the news. Clara had miscarried. After getting too upset, as you can imagine, this incident completely broke their relationship. They fought endlessly. If Clara only despised Julian before, now she downright hated him. She never set foot in their home again, and had no further contact with him, that is, until Julian went after Leo and pushed him down the stairs. That was the final straw. The original Julian really was insane. When he wanted to hurt people, he didn't even spare himself. I stayed silent for a while before saying, it's all in the past. The original Julian was gone. Now those things ended with him. When I left the nursing home, I was in a bit of a funk. I wasn't sure if it was because of Mrs. Clara or because of the original Julian. That mood hit its peak when I realized I had accidentally lost my car keys. In utter despair, I called Hannah. Come pick me up quickly. Hannah sounded incredulous. Am I your chauffeur? Do I have to drop everything and come running whenever you call? I'll pay you, I replied. Hannah. The nursing home was in a pretty remote area, so even getting a cab wasn't easy. Hannah eventually gave in, and by the time I got home, it was dark. To make things worse, it was pouring rain. Looking at the torrential downpour outside, I graciously decided to let Hannah stay the night, giving her the guest room on the second floor. The next morning, the doorbell rang seriously. Who's ringing the doorbell this early? Half asleep, I groggily stumbled over to answer the door. Who? Why are you here? Standing outside was none other than Clara. She was just about to say something when footsteps came from the stairs, and Hannah's voice, clearly irritated from being woken up, called out, "Who is it?" Clara's face instantly turned cold, and she spoke through gritted teeth, as if every word was for stout. Looks like I'm interrupting. Chapter 8. I rolled my eyes internally. Oh, so now you realize you're interrupting? And why are you mad? This is my house. You Ray, just the ex-wife. So why do you get to act like you've been wronged? Pulling this cheated on act? You've been cheating on me for so long, and I haven't even bothered to call you out on it. I turned to Hannah and said, no big deal, go back to sleep. Hannah had her own princess syndrome, but she was only here because she got caught in the rain last night. So, the least I could do was let her get a good night's sleep. Seeing Clara seemed to wake Hannah up completely, and she lazily smiled. We've got a guest. Wouldn't it be rude if I just went back to bed? Julian, why don't you invite her in? I see. I told you, this woman goes crazy when she doesn't get enough sleep. I ignored her and turned back to Clara, clearly not planning to let her inside. I'd just finished clearing out all her stuff, and I wasn't about to mess up the house again. It would only mean more work for the cleaner later. So early? Miss Clara, is there something you need? I asked. Clara's face turned a shade darker, clearly irritated by Hannah's few casual words, but she couldn't lash out if this were before. She could have kicked Hannah out as the mistress of the house, but now she wasn't even on Hannah's level. She couldn't even step foot inside. But Clara, like all women of her kind, was good at keeping her cool. She took a deep breath, ignored Hannah, and pulled out a key from her pocket, handing it to me. You left this at my mom's yesterday. She asked me to bring it to you. The implication was clear. She was only here because her mom made her come. Oh, thanks. I took the key. You really didn't have to trouble yourself. I have a spare. Clara had nothing to say to that. After a few moments of silence, my patience ran out, and I politely, Miss Clara, is there anything else? If Clara couldn't tell I was asking her to leave, and she'd wasted all her years climbing to her current position, she pressed her red lips together. No. Slam. I shut the door in her face. Hannah was standing on the stairs, watching me. I raised an eyebrow. Not going back to sleep. Why are you staring at me? Hannah narrowed her eyes, crossing her arms. Nothing really. I just think you seem a bit heartless toward your ex-wife. I rolled my eyes. If you don't have anything to say, you don't have to say anything. Hannah tilted her head slightly. Julian, don't tell me you haven't noticed her feelings. I shot back. What feelings? Hannah leaned against the railing, speaking lazily. She wants to see you, doesn't she? Otherwise, she wouldn't have rushed over so early. Just to return a car key, or would her face have turned so sour when she saw me here? I tilted my head. And so? Hannah tapped the railing with her fingers, her tone casual. Don't you feel anything? Feel what? Just because she turned around, I'm supposed to chase after her? I found it kind of funny. Oh, I'm supposed to chase after her. I do. Na's eyes flicked over to me, her back straightening a bit. I shrugged. I feel like I should have divorced her sooner if I'd known what kind of person she was. I would have moved on a long time ago. She wasted so much of my time. Chapter 9. Hannah seemed surprised by what I said. She stared at me for a moment, then suddenly turned her head and laughed. Well done, Julian, you've finally grown a backbone. Feeling encouraged, I couldn't resist complimenting her back. Oh, not at all. I'm still far behind you. Now she was the real master, navigating through countless relationships without ever getting attached. Hannah smirked. How many times do I have to tell you? I don't have anything to do with those men. I quickly agreed. Of course you. Ray, just playing the field until you find your true love. Isn't that how it always goes in the novels? The rich, spoiled heiress eventually meets her destined love, and all her old emotional debts get repaid tenfold. Hannah gave me a deadpan look before muttering, "There's no talking sense with an idiot like you," and then she went back to sleep. I slept until the afternoon, waking up because I was starving when I checked my phone. I saw a bunch of missed calls and messages, all from the original Julian's parents. After scrolling for a bit, I figured out why they were suddenly trying to contact me. They had found out about the divorce. "You divorced Clara? What on earth were you thinking? How many times have we told you? Clara's company is doing great, and we were in the middle of negotiating a partnership with them. What are we supposed to do now? How old are you? How can you be this irresponsible? You divorced her just like that. Didn't you consider how this affects anyone else? You're so selfish. I don't have a son like you." The messages went on, but they were all the same. I skimmed through them, then got up to find something to eat. Damn, that smells amazing. I was dumbfounded to see the table piled with a feast, and there was Hannah casually enjoying her meal. "Hannah, do you have no conscience eating all this by yourself?" Hannah raised her eyes lazily. "What, should I starve for you?" That logic was so solid I couldn't argue with it. I sat down and grabbed some chopsticks, going straight for my favorite, shredded pork with garlic sauce. One thing about Hannah, she really knew her food. Even the takeout she ordered tasted better than what most people got. "Oh, by the way, your parents called me too," Hannah said as she ate. "They said they've been trying to reach you, but you weren't picking up." I picked up a braised rib. "Yeah, I know." Wama's chopsticks paused for a moment, and her gaze flicked to my phone. "Should I give you some space?" I waved it off. "No need I'll say what they want. But it's already done there. Nothing they can do about it." Just as I spoke, the phone rang again. I answered it before I could even say hello. A sharp voice started yelling, "Julian, you go find Clara right now. Tell her you made a mistake, that you were just being impulsive. Beg her to take you back and remarry." Listening to the shrill voice, I had to hold the phone away from my ear for a moment. Are they serious? I'm well aware that getting yelled at is way better than being killed by Clara. "Julian, are you even listening to me?" I finally responded. "I'm listening, but this isn't going to work. I can't do it." The voice on the other end got even angrier. "Is this how you speak to your parents?" I replied calmly. "Didn't you say before that I'm not your son? Did you forget?" There was sudden silence on the other end. It seemed like she wanted to start yelling again, but I couldn't be bothered. Anyway, I've made my decision, and I'm busy right now. We can talk some other time. With that, I hung up and blocked the number. Hannah, who had witnessed the whole exchange, was left speechless. Chapter 10. She set down her chopsticks and looked me up and down for a good while, clearly amazed. "Well, Julian, not only did you dump your ex-wife, but now you're standing up to your parents too." I was still chewing on some meat, so I mumbled back, "Where there's oppression, there's resistance." Hannah let out a sarcastic laugh, leaning forward slightly and resting her chin on her hand, her wee lips curling into a smirk. "So does that mean I'm next?" I gave her a thumbs up. Praising her self-awareness, her reaction didn't surprise me. She had grown up with the original Julian, so she knew exactly what kind of person he used to be. From her perspective, everything I had done probably boiled down to one conclusion: I've lost my mind. But honestly, anyone would go crazy with all this drama. I'm just a supporting villain, without the protagonist's plot armor. The best move is to get out while I still can. "Oh, by the way, help me find a new place," I said. "This villa's nice, but I don't like being disturbed all the time." It wasn't just Clara. Julian's whole family was a nuisance to now that I had completely burned that bridge. Who knew when they might show up to cause trouble? And I had zero interest in dealing with that. Hannah understood. "Got it, leave it to me." Hannah was a top-tier rich kid. Sure, she spent most of her time eating, drinking, and partying, but when you really needed her, she got things done the next day. She called me, saying she'd found a villa on the west side of the city. The previous owner moved abroad and is desperate to sell. The place was just renovated and never lived in. "You're getting a steal." I was very satisfied with her efficiency. That same day, I dragged Hannah along to sign the contract and transferred the ownership as fast as possible. And I immediately listed my current place for sale. I called a moving company, and soon enough, A group of movers was running up and down the stairs, packing up everything. I couldn't help but shake my head. I hadn't realized how much stuff the original Julian had until now. This was going to cost extra, wasn't it? Mister, what's in this box? One of the movers asked, hauling a large cardboard box down from the third floor. It's pretty heavy. The box was sealed tightly, so I couldn't see what was inside. Just as I was about to go over and check, I got a phone call. Hello, is this Mr. Blake? This is the Third People's Hospital. Your wife fainted on the street and was brought here. Can you come to the hospital as soon as possible? Chapter 11. I froze. Clara fainted and she's in the hospital? You must be mistaken. I'm not her husband. I explained. The voice on the other end sounded surprised. But the contact information on her phone. Right. I suddenly remembered back, when Clara was pregnant, Julian had insisted on changing his name in her phone to Dear Julian Husband. I guess she'd forgotten to change it back after the divorce. How is she doing? I asked. She likely fainted due to low blood sugar. There's no immediate danger, but her overall condition isn't great. It's better if you... I see, but I'm a bit tied up right now. Why don't you give her current boyfriend a call? His name is Leo. You should find his number in her contacts. If anything comes up, just contact him. I hung up and looked around. The living room was now filled with even more boxes. How long is this going to take? Just move everything out for now. I'll sort it later when I have time. Luckily, a new house was big enough. I asked the housekeeper to organize things, then I spent the rest of the day playing a few rounds of World of Warships and checking out a new trendy barbecue restaurant. The food was great, and the place had an awesome vibe, so I couldn't help but take a bunch of photos and post them on social media. Check-in, another day of bulking up, I added, along with a few selfies. My friends showered me with likes, and even Hannah, who rarely commented on social media, chimed in. This place is pretty good, I replied. You've been here, Hannah? Of course, I own it. Wow, she really knows how to pull it off. What I didn't expect was that Leo also left a comment. His tone was polite, laced with condescension and accusation. Even though you and Clara are divorced, she's in the hospital right now. Don't you think you should at least visit her? Julian? What's wrong with this guy? As soon as Leo's comment dropped, my social feed exploded. Only a few people knew about my divorce with Clara, and I hadn't even figured out how to break the news yet. But now, he'd gone and put himself on the moral high ground. Well, if that's how he wants to play it, I replied pretentiously. A good ex should act like they're dead. I just didn't want to cause any misunderstandings, but if you don't mind, I'll go visit after all. We were classmates, and it's only right to check in on her. What do you think? My social feed erupted. People were buzzing with excitement. Not long after, Leo quietly deleted his commento. So, deleting it makes everything go away? I quickly followed up with another public post, calling all social media experts. What's the best gift to bring when visiting your ex-wife and her current boyfriend in the hospital? This is super important. Chapter 12. An hour later, I arrived at the hospital, carrying a bag of fruit. Just as I approached the room, I heard Leo's voice, full of concern. Clara, don't be mad. I know I was wrong this time, but I was only thinking about you. There was no response from Clara. Leo, sounding both frustrated and wronged, continued. You passed out, and the hospital even called him, but he didn't bother to come see you. What if something had happened to you today? He made it sound like I had committed some unforgivable crime. Finally, Clara's tired voice came through. I'm a little tired, Leo. I'd like to be alone for a while. After a brief pause, I heard the sound of a chair being moved. Then Leo appeared at the door. When he saw me, he froze, staring in shock. Sensing something was wrong, Clara turned to look as well. Her face was pale, devoid of the usual commanding presence she had as a powerful CEO, lying in the hospital bed with the IV drip in her arm. She looked unexpectedly fragile when she saw me. Her dull eyes brightened for a moment, filled with what seemed like a mix of tension and uncertainty. Julian, what are you doing here? I stepped past Leo and walked into the room. Well, I didn't want people talking behind my back, saying that I didn't care if my ex-wife lived or died, right after the divorce. After all, we were college classmates. No need to make things so awkward. Right? Clara's face went pale, the eyes tightening into a thin line. She must have seen the little exchange between me and Leo on social media, knowing how proud she was. She couldn't stand being publicly teased like that. It must have felt like a humiliation. Her hatred for me probably just grew another notch. The thought of it annoyed me. All right, now that I've shown up, if there's nothing else, I'll be on my way. Clara's mouth twitched slightly. Julian, do you really have to act like this? I raised an eyebrow, genuinely curious. Like what? You didn't visit me until 3 days after my car accident. Compared to that, I think I'm being pretty reasonable, don't you? If we're talking about being ruthless, who can top the female lead? Clara's face turned ashen. Her mouth opened as if to say something, but my phone rang, interrupting her. It was the housekeeper from my villa. Mr. Blake, most of your belongings have been organized. But there's one box we haven't touched yet. It's full of ceramic items. What would you like us to do with them? I paused. Ceramic items? Yes, and it looks like you made them yourself, so I thought I'd check with you first. From the corner of my eye, I caught Clara's startled expression, and a memory flashed through my mind. Oh, right. Those ceramics were indeed made by the original Julian back in college. Clara worked part-time at a DIY pottery shop, and Julian would often go there to see her. Spending entire afternoons there, he had no talent for it. And no patience either. His only focus was on Clara. As a result, every time he'd leave covered in clay, taking home some hideously ugly finished product. But he never got tired of it and didn't seem to care how ridiculous he looked. Eventually, Clara couldn't take it anymore and told him he was doing it wrong. Julian immediately seized the opportunity to push further. Then why don't you teach me yourself? Of course, Clara refused, but Julian was a VIP customer at the shop, and she couldn't afford to offend him. It wasn't until Clara, with that Julian finally stopped going. That box of art pieces had been accumulated during that time. They're not important, just throw them out, I said inferently. Chapter 13. Wait, but Clara suddenly spoke up. You moved? I had to admit, this woman could be sharp when she wanted to be. I nodded. Yep, Clara frowned. Where to? Why so sudden? I couldn't help but laugh. Miss Clara, how many times do I have to remind you? We're divorced. What I do and where I live have nothing to do with you anymore. Clara's expression faltered. Like she had just heard something she couldn't accept. Her eyes reddened slightly. After a long moment, she finally relented, her voice low. If you don't want the ceramics, I can send someone to pick them up. I gave her a curious look. Those are my things. If I want to keep them, I will. If I want to throw them away, I'll throw them away. For some reason, that sentence seemed to strike a nerve. The last bit of light in Clara's eyes flickered out. It was like watching a weak flame in the wind finally blow out. Leo, clearly worried, quickly stepped forward. Clara, are you okay? Clara turned her head slightly, avoiding his hand. Leo froze, visibly embarrassed, but I had no interest in their drama, so I turned to leave. Just as I stepped outside, a doctor called out to me. Ah, I looked up to see a woman in her 40s, a doctor studying me. Why are you here? Are you feeling unwell? I was confused for a moment, then glanced at her name badge. It read, Obstetrics, Department Chief. An unsettling thought crossed my mind. The only thing Julian had ever been involved with that could connect him to this doctor was the baby from before. Thanks for your concern, but I'm fine. I'm just here visiting a friend, I replied vaguely. The doctor seemed to relax. That's good, but you and your wife are at the right age now. Next time you have a child, you shouldn't give it up. I was stunned. Those two sentences carried a massive amount of information. A child? Didn't Clara have a miscarriage? What is the doctor talking about? Wait, that night when Julian arrived at the hospital, Clara had already been wheeled out of surgery, with Leo sitting by her bedside. Clara, what are you doing? Leo's alarmed voice jolted me from my thoughts. I turned around to see Clara yanking out her IV and pushing Leo's ideas. She rushed over to us. She blocked the doctor, her voice tight with tension. Doctor, this is a private matter between my husband and me. It's none of your concern. I felt a chill run down my spine as I slowly turned to look at Clara. For the first time, this beautiful face seemed completely unfamiliar to me. But Clara, what does this mean? The doctor's brows furrowed. You didn't know? Your wife told us you both were focused on your careers and weren't ready for children, so she chose to have an abortion. You mean to say you had no idea? Chapter 14. I can't even remember how I got home. The shocking news had left me completely numb. I sat in the study for a long time, closing my eyes. How could this be? In the novel, it was clearly written that Julian's jealousy and argument with Clara had caused her miscarriage. How could it be? For some reason, thinking about this made something deep inside me ache. As if I could feel the same hopelessness and pain Julian must have felt when he learned that the baby was gone. The discomfort grew stronger. I shook my head, trying to shake off the feeling. The study had been recently organized. I flipped through a few things, finally finding the box that stored my old university stuff. At the very bottom was a college memory album. If the masquerade wasn't how it was written in the book, could there be other differences too? And opening the first page, I saw a picture from military training. The sun was blazing, and a boy in a green uniform was smiling brightly. Behind him, standing on the stage, was a slender figure. Even though the figure was far away, anyone could tell at a glance that it was Clara from their college days. Beneath the photo were a few lines of small text. On the first day of training, a girl fainted next to me. I carried her to the infirmary. She was so light. I didn't expect to see her again on stage today, giving the freshman speech. Turns out her name is Clara. Pretending to take selfies just to sneak pictures of someone you liked. A classic move. This must have been when he first started liking Clara. I chuckled a little. Julie fell in love with Clara in such a simple and cliché way, love at first sight. I couldn't help but touch my face. The Julian in the book was selfish, reckless, and obsessive. He seemed so different from the one with that bright, carefree smile in the photo. It was hard to imagine that the boy with stars in his eyes would eventually become the paranoid, domineering, and selfish man he was later on. I kept flipping through the album, surprised to find that every single photo was related to Clara. There were pictures of her attending class in a lecture hall, playing badminton with her hair flying, eating alone in the cafeteria, and working diligently at the pottery shop. Sometimes next to the photos there were short comments. The classes she chooses are so boring. I don't understand them. How can a girl be so good at both studying and sports? She always eats alone, and it's always the cheapest meal at the cafeteria. Does she ever get full? She always seems so busy. Not even enough time to talk to me. It was a whole album of Julian's unrequited love for Clara for years. He had taken countless photos of her, every picture and every scent unpainted a very different Julian than the one in the book. Where she seems to like someone, but it's not me. What should I do? Maybe I should give up. Tomorrow is the graduation ceremony. Should I confess and say goodbye to this one-sided crush? She suddenly left in the middle of the graduation photo shoot. I followed her secretly and found out her mom's condition had worsened, and they needed a lot of money. What will she do? The page where the graduation photo should have been was blank because of Clara. Julian missed his own graduation photo. My hands began to tremble slightly. I didn't know why, but I suddenly felt like this album was unbearably heavy, weighing down on me, making it hard to keep turning the pages. It felt like if I kept reading, something uncontrollable would happen. There was a tightness in my chest, like a heavy stone pressing down, making it hard to breathe, but some unseen force pushed me to keep going. Then I found a wedding photo. Chapter 15. No, to be more precise, it was a passport-sized photo. The picture, from their marriage certificate. Julie, and still had a smile on his face. But it was more subdued, a small curve at the corner of his lips. His body leaned slightly toward Clara. Clara, however, looked calm and indifferent, completely out of place against the joyful red background. I realized they never had a proper wedding photo. After a year of back and forth, Clara finally chose to marry Julian. But she didn't marry the person she loved most. So she had no interest in the trivial details of the wedding at the time. Her mother was also in the hospital, so they didn't have a wedding ceremony or take any wedding photos. They just got the certificate and called it a marriage. If I had expected that on this page, the day he finally got to be with Clara, Julian would have written a lot, but there wasn't a single word. I stared at that photo for a long time, feeling an inexplicable tightness in my chest. 5 years of unrequited love, 5 years of marriage, and this was the only picture they had together. I pushed down my emotions and kept turning the pages. But there were no more photos of Clara, only occasional sentences remained. She's been so busy lately her company is just starting, and she has to handle everything herself. It must be exhausting. I made her favorite sweet and sour ribs, but she came home smelling of alcohol and fell straight into bed. She bought an apartment near her company for convenience, but that man, why is he there too? I know I'll never mean as much to her as he does, but I still want a child of our own. Am I beyond hope? I went to the nursing home again today and ran into Hannah helping her dad check out. She told me I was being an idiot. That Clara isn't the type of woman who'll fall for this kind of trick. I turned and left because I knew she was right. I was ready to give up. But that night, she came home drunk. I couldn't resist kissing her, and for the first time, she kissed me back. There was a blank space, then finally on one page. I think she's pregnant. I kept reading. Those 2 months were indeed the best period of Julian and Clara's relationship, even though he knew that Clara's change in attitude was only because of the baby. But by then he didn't want anything else from the moment he fell for her all those years ago. He had been hopelessly in love with this person. He once believed she was the light of his life. He wanted to draw warmth and affection from her, but from the start, it was all wrong. This seemingly perfect dream finally shattered. The last page held a torn consent form for an abortion. Clara's signature scrawled in the bottom right corner. It felt like lightning had struck me, and a wave of pain washed over me, leaving me numb and cold. Countless images flashed through my mind, crashing over me like a violent storm, as if trying to drown me. I felt like a fish gasping for air before a storm, trying to break the surface to breathe, only to be dragged under by a bigger wave. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, and then finally it hit me. I hadn't transmigrated. I am Julian. Chapter 16. The sudden ringing of my phone cut through the silence of the study, especially jarring in the quiet room. It was Hannah calling. I answered, and before I could say anything, Hannah's direct voice came through. Did you go to the hospital to see Clara today? Her flight was in the afternoon, so logically, she shouldn't know what's been going on here. Even though I had posted some things on social media, she shouldn't have such detailed information, especially about the timing. Yes, I didn't deny it. How did you know? She hesitated briefly. Clara called me, asking some questions about you. Oh, I see. I nodded, not pressing for more, sensing my indifferent tone. Hannah seemed to pick up on the fact that something was off. It's late. You're still awake? She asked, softening her voice and changing the topic. I was about to respond when the doorbell rang. To my surprise, it was Clara. I hung up on Hannah, went downstairs, and opened the door, but I didn't invite Clara inside. The sky had already gone completely dark, and the street behind her cast a faint glow, leaving her face half-lit, half-shadowed. What do you want? I asked. Her lips were pale. I came to apologize. It had been 3 hours since I left the hospital, and only now did she think to say these words. No need, I replied flatly. It's all in the past. It was too late. I didn't need her apology anymore. Clara's face turned even paler. Julian, please listen to me. Can't explain that day. I was just impulsive. Was it really impulsive, or was it premeditated? I asked softly. Carrying my child must have been painful for you, right? Clara froze. It took her a long moment before she closed her eyes and with difficulty said, At first, I really didn't want this baby, but later, as the child grew day by day, I was just confused in that moment, and I regret it. Isn't it too late to regret it now? Regret filled Clara's eyes as her shoulders shook, but she couldn't find the words to respond. I gave her a faint smile. You wanted me to think that it was my fault, that you lost the baby because of me, right? That way I'd be consumed with guilt, unable to ever bring up the child again, and you'd finally be free. Isn't that how it goes? Clara was stunned deep down. She had always believed that I was exactly that kind of selfish, possessive, and jealous man. As long as the child was gone, I would have no reason to tie her down anymore. She opened her mouth, struggling to find the words. But that was between us. Why did you suddenly go after Leo that day? I looked at her quietly. This was the woman I had loved for 10 years, and yet even at this moment, her heart was still focused on another man. I smiled. There was no particular reason. I just didn't like him, he deserved it, but the child is gone. And we're divorced now. Clara, you can finally be with him, you should be happy. No, Clara seemed to snap, stepping forward and grabbing my wrist. I don't love him. I don't love him. Julian, can you please stop talking to me like this? I frowned, just about to push her away, when suddenly a soft laugh came from behind. Well, looks like I picked the wrong time to show up. Chapter 17. Clara immediately froze. It was only then that I noticed the person who had arrived was Hannah. The one who was supposed to be out of town. She brushed a strand of hair from her ear, her beautiful eyes glinting coldly as she looked at Clara. Clara, didn't I tell you that since you were the one who wanted the divorce, you shouldn't come back and bother him? Clara bit her lip, glaring at Hannah with equal hostility. My relationship with Julian is none of your business. Hannah raised an eyebrow and walked over, standing next to me and casually looping her arm through mine. My heart skipped a beat. Hannah? She tilted her head toward me, smiling in that sultry yet innocent way of hers. What are you planning on going back to her? My head felt a bit muddled, so I shook it. No such plans, but why are you back all of a sudden? She lifted her chin slightly. If I didn't come back, would I have to watch her harass you? Clara stared intently at the way Hannah was holding my arm, her eyes turning red. Hannah, don't act like you're so noble. You know exactly what your intentions are, don't you? Hannah chuckled. She turned around, her smile still bright. Since Miss Clara seems to know so much, why don't you tell me exactly what my intentions are? Clara refused to speak. Her lips pressed tightly together. Hannah smirked. What's wrong? You won't say it? Fine, I'll say it for you. I've been waiting for you two to get divorced so I could chase after him. This chance doesn't come often, so of course I'm going to make the most of it. A night breeze carried her voice, every word ringing in my ears, stirring something deep inside my chest. Hannah, Clara, if you had even a shred of decency, you wouldn't have asked those questions just now. Do you really think there's anyone out there who will keep forgiving you forever? Who will always give you another chance? Clara's face turned deathly pale, her body swaying like she might collapse at any moment. She muttered, her voice shattered, I didn't mean to. Hannah seemed to have no patience for her, cutting her off coldly. I already told you, he's finally moving on from all of that and is ready to start a new life. Why would you come back and drag him down with it? I suddenly looked at Hannah. Something about what she said didn't sit right with me. Could she have figured something out? But Hannah didn't seem to notice my reactions. He simply said, You should leave Dawn, come back. Clara nearly collapsed, her gaze vacant as if she had lost all sense of focus. I didn't want to watch any longer, so I said, All right, you came here to ask the questions, but I've already answered them. From today onward. We have no connection whatsoever. With that, I turned to leave. Suddenly, dull thud sounded behind me. Clara had fallen to her knees. Julian, her voice trembled uncontrollably. I know it's my fault. Everything was my fault. Please just give me one more chance. Let's start over, okay? Chapter 18. Hannah's first reaction was to glance at me. The usual arrogance and haughtiness in her demeanor seemed to fade away, leaving only her bright, beautiful eyes locked onto me. Her and hanging by her side tightened, and her expression became tense. She was nervous. Clara was waiting for my answer. And so was she. I turned and looked quietly at Clara. Clara, for 5 years of marriage, I wasn't like Leo. I wasn't the one you wanted, and all I did was cause you trouble. I even foolishly believed I could have you all to myself. That's what you think of me, isn't it? Ara's face went pale. I added softly, You even believe that this marriage itself was for stiff. It hadn't been for your mother, you would never have been with me, and there wouldn't have been all this drama. That's how you see our marriage, isn't it? That's what you told me before the accident, isn't it? Clara's expression turned to one of deep regret, her eyes panicking. I only said that out of anger that day. I was too upset. I didn't mean it. It was that conversation that made me fully understand how laughable, hateful, and pathetic I was in her eyes. After losing the baby, I was heartbroken, starting to wonder if I should set Clara free. A man like me didn't deserve to be with her, so when Leo asked to meet, I agreed. I wanted to talk to him, to clear the air with the man who had always lingered around my marriage. But I didn't get the chance to ask my questions that day because Leo handed me the consent form for the abortion. Julian, did you really think having a baby would make Clara love you? I was there when you called her. I even told her she should listen to you and stay home instead of going on that business trip, but do you know what she said? She said you were just trying to trap her with the baby, and that it was exhausting. You've loved Clara since freshman year, haven't you? All right. It was because she fainted during military training and you carried her to the infirmary. Wasn't it? Being helpful is a good thing. But falling in love, because of that one little incident and expecting her to be with you forever? Don't you think that's a bit much, Julian? Stop fooling yourself. Clara is sick of you, and the thought of having your child disgusts her. I never expected Leo to deliberately throw himself down the stairs, nor did I expect Clara to show up at that exact moment. She didn't even bother to hear my side of the story. All she did was cry by Leo's side, deeply concerned for him from start to finish. She didn't spare me a single glance later. When she finally made time for me, I wanted to confront her about the baby, but her words shut me down. Julian, how long are you going to keep this up? Do you realize how much you disgust me? When head to toe, I had wandered the streets aimlessly for a long time that day, her harsh words echoing in my head. Am I really that selfish? Am I that extreme? Am I really that detestable? Until that car hit me, I blacked out. When I woke up, I became another version of myself. A version of me seen through Clara's eyes in this new world she created. I was mad, selfish, and obsessive. And most importantly, I no longer loved her. I stared into Clara's eyes, speaking calmly. But Clara, in this world, I don't love you anymore. It was my love that put you on a pedestal, but you were never worthy of it. Chapter 19. When I woke up the next morning, the sun was already up. I smelled something delicious and wandered into the kitchen, surprised to see Hannah cooking. I was stunned. Miss Hannah, what's the occasion today that warrants such a grand gesture from you? Hannah tilted her head toward the garden outside. It's the day when someone annoying finally left. Clara had knelt outside all night, but I didn't bother with her. I pulled Hannah, who still wanted to argue, back inside, closed the door, and went to sleep, of course, in separate rooms. I sat at the table and took a bite of the toast and eggs she made. Pooh. Also happens to be the first time Miss Hannah failed at cooking. Hannah rushed over, trying to take the toast from me. Is it burnt? Don't eat it. I'll make you a new one. I dodged her. No, meat it. It's a waste to throw it out. It's still edible. Hannah eyed me skeptically. Really? I held up the toast. More to try? Just as she was about to take a bite, I leaned forward and kissed the corner of her lip. She froze, and her ears turned visibly red. Julian, I smiled, satisfied, and pinched her cheek. I heard you. I heard you. Why are you yelling so loudly? You're even louder than when you confessed yesterday. Hannah, she stayed quiet for a while before throwing herself into my arms, muttering softly, I thought you'd forgotten everything after the accident. You couldn't remember much. I almost thought I'd be stuck taking care of a fool for the rest of my life. I ruffled her hair. How could I forget? Even if I forgot myself, I wouldn't forget you. Even in those days when I couldn't recognize or trust myself, I never let my guard up around her. I trusted her completely. She looked up at me, smiling with satisfaction. Finally using your brain for once all these years. My feelings haven't gone to waste. Something tugged at my heart. I couldn't help but ask, Hannah, how could you be even more foolish than me? Why did you fall for someone like me? She puffed up with pride. Because I have great taste. I knew I was waiting for someone worth waiting for. I laughed. Yes, yes. You're the best. Chapter 20. Clara's extra story. Lately I keep running into a boy. He's there during classes, at the badminton courts. And even when I'm working part-time it seems like a coincidence. But his attempts are clumsy, and he's terrible at hiding his intentions. It's written all over his face. It's a bit annoying. It's not like I haven't had other boys interested in me before, but none of them were as blatant as he was. I thought he'd give up after a while. To my surprise, he was incredibly persistent. I purposely started spending time with Leo, hoping he'd take the hint and back off. His disappointment was visible. And after that, I didn't see him for a long time. I felt relieved, though part of me thought, he really is the type to give up quickly after all. He's a rich kid. He's never faced real hardship. He's nothing like us, I remembered Leo saying, and my mood soured. Even Leo's hints that we should be together irritated me. so I found an excuse to turn him down. I didn't have time for relationships. I had to take care of my parents and support my family. Leo, being understanding as always, didn't push the issue and instead focused on helping me. Then things took a turn. For the worse, my mom's condition deteriorated, and we needed a huge amount of money for her treatment just when I thought I had no way out. That boy appeared again. "What do you want in return?" I asked. He shook his head. I laughed bitterly inside, not sure whether I was mocking him or myself. "All right then, let's be together," I heard myself say. I knew what he wanted, yet he acted like he didn't. But I had no choice. I needed the money, so I sold myself to him. His relationship with his family wasn't great, so he clung to me. But I was too busy. When did I have the time for him? Eventually, he started coming around less, and I thought he had finally let it go. I didn't realize he was busy causing trouble for Leo. I scolded him multiple times, but he always denied it. Our arguments never ended well. When he finally stopped, I was relieved, until I saw him chatting with another woman at the nursing home. That woman was Hannah. I knew her. She was his childhood friend, and came from a similar background. If it weren't for me, they would have been a perfect match. I'm a woman. I could see the way she looked at him. He would complain to her, dicker with her, all things he never did with me. How could he do this? He said he loved me, yet he was with another woman. He thought I was drunk that night, but I wasn't. I don't know where the possessiveness came from, but it consumed me, catching me off guard. When I found out I was pregnant, I felt an odd sense of relief. Now that I had a child, we would have to stay together, right? I don't even know how I ended up deciding to go through with the procedure. I thought it was a way to punish him, but I was wrong. It hurt me 1,000 times more than I'd ever expected. Everything fell apart, spiraling out of control. I don't even remember how I said those things to him. I must have been losing my mind. When he signed the divorce papers, I realized it. I really had lost it. How could I let him go? I couldn't let him leave, but by the time I came to my senses, it was too late. I fired Leo and leaked the news about him taking kickbacks and leaking company secrets. He couldn't find work anywhere after that and begged outside my office for days before leaving the city in disgrace. I couldn't bring myself to change the contact name in my phone, but one day when I called it drunk, I found out it had already been disconnected. Later, I heard he and Hannah had a grand wedding that's when I finally understood something. I had lost him for good. The rain outside was pouring, dampening everything, seeping into my heart. It was my fault. It was all my fault. I lost him, and I lost myself. I'm sorry. Next time, please don't meet me again. Chapter 21. Extra. The next time I saw Clara was 3 years later. "Mom's not doing well. She wants to see you." I almost didn't recognize the woman in front of me. Clara, once so glamorous and beautiful, now looked haggard and gaunt. In just 3 short years, she seemed to have aged 10 years. I heard she had gone through several old college classmates, trying to track me down before finally finding me. Although everything between us was warm over, I couldn't help but think of the frail old woman lying in her hospital bed, so I nodded. "All right, but I have something to do later, so I won't be able to stay long." Clara's previously dull eyes lit up, clearly not expecting me to agree so easily. For a moment, she seemed a little unsure of what to do. "And no problem, it's already amazing that you're willing to come." There was an unfamiliar nervousness and unease on her face as she spoke softly. "I'm already so grateful you're willing to go. I made a call to my family, and then Clara and I headed out to visit Clara's mother. Surprisingly, she wasn't in the nursing home anymore. The car finally stopped in front of a rundown apartment building. Oh, right. I'd heard that a few years ago, things fell apart between Clara and Leo. Out of spite, Leo joined one of her rival companies and systematically pushed Clara to the brink. Her company went bankrupt. She was deep in debt, and she had borrowed money from several classmates in the end. After all that, she had ended up like this, unable to afford the nursing home fees and without a proper place to stay. Now she was renting a shabby apartment. When we got to the door, Clara didn't go in right away. She placed her hand on the door, took a deep breath, and finally pushed it open. Clara's mother was lying in bed, skeletal and weak. "Mom," Clara called softly. Clara's mother heard her, but slowly turned her head away, closing her eyes again. Clara walked over and whispered, "Mom, Julian came to see you." Clara's mother froze, trembling as she lifted her head to look at me. Mrs. Dawes. Clara, I greeted her. Tears immediately welled up in Clara's mother's eyes, falling onto her thin, foamy hands. Clara rushed to wipe away her tears, but Clara's mother pushed her away. Get out. I have no daughter like you. Caught off guard, Clara stumbled and fell to the ground, tears brimming in her eyes. I felt a little awkward, unsure of what had caused their relationship to become like this. Mrs. Clara, please, don't get upset. But Clara's mother only cried harder, her mouth opened and closed, her voice hoarse and choked with sobs. I know everything now, Julian. It was Clara who wronged you. Our family, the Clara family, wronged you. I was silent for a moment before shaking my head. It's all in the past. Everyone has their own life now. We should all move forward. Don't you think? Clara's mother trembled, turning her head away to cry. Julian, you're a good boy. You shouldn't come here again. Clara, her eyes red and swollen, wanted to see me off downstairs. There's no need. Take care of your mother, I said, glancing at my phone. Clara gave a bitter smile. Ever since she found out we divorced, she hasn't acknowledged me. She looks at me every day, and just gets angrier. I wasn't in the mood to listen to this. Nor was I interested. Grabbing my car keys, I prepared to leave. Clara hesitated. Julian, are you in a hurry? Maybe we could have lunch or tea? I nodded. Yeah, I've got to go pick up Laura from school. Clara froze as if struck by lightning. Her face went pale as a sheet. What? I forgot to tell you, Laura, my daughter. I smiled. You haven't met her. She has got her mother's eyes, but my nose and mouth. She's beautiful. Clara couldn't say another word. He slumped onto the sofa, slowly covering her face, and began to sob quietly. I turned and left. As the door closed behind me, I heard her collapse into full-blown weeping. I didn't look back. I walked straight to my car and rushed to the kindergarten. Daddy! A soft, sweet bundle of joy threw herself into my arms. I lifted her up and gave her a little toss. Let's go. Mommy's cooking something special at home today. My little girl scrunched up her nose, looking at me pitifully. Daddy, I want to eat your cooking. I tapped her nose playfully. All right. The part of me that was once missing had long since been filled with love. The past is just that, gone like smoke in the wind.